Today, I'd like to show you how easily you can integrate data from any database into your AI assistant within the Your Pure AI platform. Your assistant will communicate with the database via an API. Let's first walk through the necessary setup inside your Pure AI. We'll start by adding a new action. In this action, we'll fill in the required settings. Parameter name refers to the parameter received in the JSON response from OpenAI. This parameter tells the assistant which action should be performed. Parameter value is the specific value that triggers this action. Next, we set the action type to API request. Then we enter the API URL, in this case, a PHP script that fetches the required information from the database. Essentially, this script runs an SQL query on our database. You'll find a link to an example PHP script used for this purpose in the video description below. Set the method to POST and the content type to application/JSON. Then define the JSON structure as shown in the video. The API key for DB is a variable that will need to be defined later in the global settings. Finally, let's save the new action we just created. Now we'll go to Global Settings, where we'll define our new variable, API key for DB. We simply enter the name of the variable, and then its value. In this case, our API key used to authorize SQL queries for our database. This same API key must also be defined in the PHP script we use for handling database queries. That way, we prevent any unauthorized access to the database. Once everything is set, don't forget to save the new variable along with its value. Now we need to add new instructions to our AI assistant in OpenAI. Let's open the system instructions settings of the assistant and add the necessary prompts for working with the database. You can find a link to a sample system prompt for database interaction in the video description below. We'll insert the instructions that will ensure our assistant provides the correct response when a user asks for information from the database. We also need to include the structure of our database in the system prompt so the assistant can generate proper SQL queries tailored to it. You can easily generate this JSON structure using ChatGPT. Simply paste the schema of your database and ask ChatGPT to convert it into a JSON format. Then take the generated JSON and insert it into your AI assistant system instructions. Finally, don't forget to save the updated system instructions. Now let's switch back to the Your Pure AI application and test our newly added database functionality. Make sure your PHP script, the one responsible for sending SQL requests to your database, is running properly. If everything's set, we're ready to test the new feature. Let's start by asking, how many registered users do we have? As you can see, we've received the correct output from our SQL database. To get more natural and human-readable responses from the assistant, let's now add one more action to our AI assistant. This will allow us to return answers in natural language. We'll now create an action that, once it receives data from the SQL database, sends that data back to our AI assistant in OpenAI. The assistant will then process the data and return a response in natural language. Once again, fill in the parameter name, parameter value, and action type as shown in the video. In the OpenAI Assistant ID field, enter the ID of your assistant. This is usually the same ID as your default AI assistant in your Pure AI. For the thread ID, enter origin. This ensures that the conversation continues within the same thread. For the parameter name, use data, which will be retrieved from the incoming JSON response. Now save the new action, and let's test the changes directly in the chat. We'll ask the same question again and observe the difference. This time, we receive a much more natural-sounding response. Let's try a few more questions. For example, requesting the email address of a specific user. Our test database is designed to manage educational courses and user accounts. So let's ask how many training courses are currently recorded in the database. We could also ask which training course is the most popular. As you can see, the AI assistant wasn't able to answer immediately. It asked for clarification. Once we provided more detail, it returned the correct information. However, we want the name of the course, not just its numeric ID, so we'll ask one more follow-up question. This demonstrates the basic workflow of how you can now retrieve data from your own database while chatting with your AI assistant. But let's take it even further. What if your AI assistant could also insert or update data in your database, all without needing a dedicated app or form? Let's now add one more action that will enable exactly that. We'll now add an action that will be able to correctly handle user requests to modify or add records to our database. The system instructions in OpenAI were already configured earlier. Now we'll just set up the correct action in the Your Pure AI Assistant. Again, fill in the parameter name, parameter value, and action type. This time, set the action type to Process in Application. Next, select Input Form. Then enter the API URL, the same as in the previous setup. Set the method to POST and the content type to application/JSON. Leave the form data parameter field empty. This field is used if you want the AI assistant to generate the form dynamically, including layout and formatting. In such a case, you would insert the name of the parameter received from the OpenAI response JSON. However, in this case, we'll create the form directly via Your Pure AI, so we'll leave the form data parameter blank. Next, fill in the SQL query parameter field with just SQL. In the JSON format, enter the required structure as shown in the video. We'll again use variables. The variable SQL query is an internal variable of the application. You don't need to define it. It will automatically contain the resulting SQL statement based on the user's input. Finally, don't forget to save the new action. We can now test this new functionality. First, let's ask whether we have a user named Alice in the database. Then, we'll request to change her email address. The assistant will present us with a form where we can enter the new email. The form will display the current email from the database and the new one we're about to input. Once we hit the Process button, the change will be applied in the database. Now we can verify the data of the user whose email we just updated. As we can see, the email has been successfully changed to the new value. In this video, you've seen how easy it is to add a database connection to your Pure AI assistant and how to interact with your data. The system instructions and the PHP API script used in this example, along with the structure of our test database, can be found below in the video description. Important: always be cautious when working with database data. This was just a demonstration of how you can use databases in conversations with an AI assistant. This setup is not recommended for production environments and is more suited for individuals exploring or managing their own data. To avoid unwanted changes, it's strongly recommended to define allowed SQL queries in advance, either within the database or directly in the OpenAI Assistant setup. Alternatively, you can restrict your assistant to read-only database access or define specific stored procedures that the assistant can call when a change is needed. Always use caution when interacting with your database in this way. We hope this video has inspired you, and we encourage you to try these examples in your own use cases. Thank you for your support, and we wish you the best on your journey with AI, your Pure AI team.